Hello, writers. I mean, readers. I actually mean both. You are both readers and writers at the same time. What do I mean by this? I mean that when you are reading a book, you are thinking, what did the author do on purpose as a writer? So you're studying that text to think about that. And when you are writing, you are trying to think about what did you learn from other books when you were reading and their craft moves, and you can try that too in your own writing. So that is called author's craft. And you'll be hearing that term or phrase in the next few lessons, either during reading or writing. And author's craft can be in stories or nonfiction. And now I just want to make sure, as a reminder, that you know the difference between stories and nonfiction. So I'm going to hold up two books. Here I have Frog and Toad and Frog Life Cycle. They're both about frogs. This one says Adventures of Frog and Toad. This one is a story that we call fiction. Fiction fake. It has characters. Someone named Arnold Lobel decided to create these characters and what they would do. And inside of these books, we have what happens to these characters at the beginning, middle, and end. There's talking, thoughts, feelings, actions, and at the end, it might even teach a life lesson. Let's check out the other book. Frog Life Cycle. Well, this one has a photograph. It has a table of contents all about frogs, egg to tadpole. There continues to be real photographs. Ooh, that's called a diagram. And this doesn't have characters or talking. Instead, nonfiction books usually have either steps for how to do something, first, second, third. A life cycle is kind of told in order. Or a book can be read in any order and tell you facts, tips about what you should or shouldn't do, such as when you are learning how to dirt bike, you should remember to wear a helmet and knee pads to keep you safe. You should add expert words. Those expert words are both in books you read, and you should add them when you're writing. Those are usually those bold words. Some bold words could be words also like most, some, many, or they could be words such as carnivore, omnivore, or special words that maybe you don't know what they mean at first when you're reading a magazine, such as segregation. What does that mean? Or I had a student saw a word on the calendar for this month and it said inauguration. So you could look up what those words mean. And finally, text features. Text features would be things such as photographs and diagrams that I had shown you on that other page. A diagram is a picture with with labels of the parts. So we're going to quickly look at these books and the differences between them. Pete the Cat, Cats versus Dogs. This one might have talking and a story and what the character thinks and does. This one is going to teach you about cats and looks like compare them versus dogs. There wouldn't be talking cats in this story, in this text, I should say. Here we have elephants cannot dance. And this one says an elephant's trunk. They both are about elephants. This one is telling you a story about a character. This one is teaching you about elephants. The last one I have for you is a trick. It's a little bit of a trick. Okay, ready? Horse life cycle. Wonder horse. Okay, so here's the trick. You might think from looking at these right away that this one is nonfiction, which actually it is. Horse life cycle. And you might look at this and say, Wonder horse. Well, this looks like it's a drawing, and usually drawings are fiction stories, but actually look at this subtitle. It says, Wonder Horse, the true story of the world's smartest horse. So this is actually a true story, but it's told like a story. So this reads like a story. Someone drew pictures to tell about an actual horse that once existed, once upon a time. And at the very back, there is an author's note that tells you more about that. So that last one was a little bit of a trick. And just to compare it to some writing that you've been doing, my Post-it note fell on the floor. Don't worry, saved it. Okay, the kind of writing that you had been doing at the beginning of the year, you were writing personal narratives. So a personal narrative was one time that you did do something. So this is tricky because a personal narrative is told like a story, except that it is true. So a personal narrative is true, but it's told using the same kind of elements of stories. And here I have another example that's tricky. It's called narrative nonfiction. Narrative nonfiction. That would be what this is. It's a narrative story, but it's true. It's a true story. So it's a story style used to teach. So that also goes on this side. You could also kind of think of it like a story, except that it's not made up. It's not fiction. It's not fake. All right, so readers and writers, your job is when you are reading books, I want you to first be able to tell, is this fiction fake or is it nonfiction true? It's real, a real story or about a real topic. How can you tell? We talked about some ways that you could tell just from looking at the title and just by looking at the photographs or pictures. So number one is know the difference between stories and nonfiction. Number two, when you are reading, you should be reading like you're going to not steal, you might borrow some craft moves. So you might say, ooh, this has a table of contents. I want to do that when I write about informational books. Or, ooh, this book has, next to the picture, the photograph, it has a little caption next to it. I want to do that when I write. Oh, look, it has a bold word to teach what the word full is and then what it means. I want to include those expert words too. So the third and final thing would be same as when you're reading fiction text. Fiction, you might see that your characters are saying things a certain way. Like maybe they cry out or shout and they have a certain action, such as they dashed out the door as fast as they could. And maybe you want to add that if you were doing personal narratives and writing, which that was beginning of the year writing. So writers, 3 jobs. Do you know the difference between stories and nonfiction? Two, when you are reading, think about how did your author use craft moves to do that on purpose. They wanted to purposely either tell a story using these craft moves, or they wanted to teach you using these craft moves. And third, as you are writing, you should be thinking like an author and doing these things. And right now, that is nonfiction. We are going to spend some time in the next few days and weeks taking each of these craft moves and we will break it down into smaller lessons for you. We will give you examples such as all about sports or animals or museums or zoos or famous people and teach you how to do this. Okay? So, was this a 10-minute video? I talked for 10 minutes? What a shock! I'm so surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I talk a lot. But I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope it somewhat caught your attention, like on a scale of 1 to 3, like a 2.5 would be good. And I hope that you go off to do some writing today and keep these author's craft moves in mind. All right, until next time, writers. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Goodbye.